Hello, Linnea from Lilybrook here. Today we are going to address some more autism myths because there were simply too many to put just in one video. And so I wanted to offer some other perspectives and some more education on what things that might help or things that you might be thinking about autism. And so as a reminder, I am a licensed professional counselor who has a neurodiverse, friendly, and affirming practice at Lilybrook in Troy. And I'm always happy to talk to anyone about these things. You can contact Lilybrook and they'll get you in touch with me. And I would be more than happy to talk to teachers or parents or individuals themselves. It doesn't matter who. I'm always excited to talk more about neurodiversity and autism. So, some of the myths that we didn't address yesterday would be that self-diagnosis, which is a huge thing right now as more and more people begin to hear more about it and recognize it in themselves, is not a valid form of identification for autism. It totally is. I think it's very easy to sometimes find different things that you are identifying with and that make sense to you. And unless you are needing a specific diagnosis for disability services or school-related issues, IEPs, things like that, self-diagnosis is valid. Right now, in the US, you do need to have a diagnosis by a psychiatrist or a psychologist to access disability services and things like that. As a counselor, I can informally diagnose you or diagnose someone that you know. If I'm working with them as a client, I can't do that otherwise. But my informal diagnosis won't qualify for school services or things like that. So you would need to have an official diagnosis of that as well. So one of the other myths that is brought up a lot is that there's more autistic people in the US and that it's somehow some epidemic of autism. And really what that means is we're just more aware of it. We know that it presents differently in women and girls than it does in boys and men. And so sometimes people are getting diagnosed later in life. Sometimes kids get diagnosed and one or more of the parents realizes that they might also have it. They just didn't have the language to say what was happening or what they were feeling. Women are encouraged to mask, which means that we can sometimes put on a face for the world, and so it comes across differently in girls as children, and they don't always get diagnosed in children unless their behaviors are really far outside the norm, and so that's why that disparity is happening. One of the other myths is that ABA therapy or applied behavior analysis is the only therapy for autism, and that's untrue. It is unfortunately true for some of the insurance companies, but ABA can be sometimes very triggering for people with autism or autistic people in general, and the community is not a big fan of it. And so there are other therapies. One of the things that I do in my practice to make it neurodiverse affirming is I have lots of different activities that we can do. I have lots of different ways to communicate. I have a whiteboard. I have on video chat. You can write in the chat the message. You can write a letter. Sometimes I have kids show me in the sand tray what's inside their head instead of telling me about it, because sometimes that's easier. I also encourage drawing or more creative arts and things like that. One of my favorite activities to do with teens is for them to create a playlist of where their head is at for me. And it's really fun to see where their musical tastes are and then also what emotions and patterns they're describing in the music. So there's lots of different ways to connect with people that are not ABA therapy, that don't force compliance and don't force people to mask in my office. My goal is to make this a safe space for everyone, no matter what the concern is or the issues. I also, when an autistic person is in my office, I'm not directly treating the autism. I am treating the problems that are extending from living in a world that's better set up for neurotypical people, and not necessarily treating autistic symptoms. Because it is a different brain neurotype, And I'm not a neurologist. That's not something that I can do. And there's no cure for it either, like we said yesterday. But there are ways to help people manage the meltdowns or the overstimulation behaviors or things like that that come up from living in a world that's not set up for you. So I think those are some of the other main myths that I wanted to talk about. As usual, if you have any other questions, you can definitely contact Lilybrook. You can go on our website, which is www.lilybrookcs.com, or you can call the front desk at 248-250-6620 for any questions or additional information. And I will see you tomorrow.